All right, thank you, Lainey. Well, it's time right now to get those legal questions answered. If you got one, go ahead and call 256-536-0077, or you can text to that same number. Either way, we will take your call or your question. We'll league with our friends over at Timberlake League, and Brooks joining us right now. While we wait for those calls, a lot of folks talking about school safety and security and accountability in light of a story that we've been reporting out of Tuscumbia this morning.
Right, every parent's nightmare. You get a call, your son's being med-flighted to the hospital, he's had a head injury, we don't know what happened. Every parent's absolute nightmare. And it's obviously a lot of speculation. There's an allegation that he may have fallen down the stairs, or there's another one that he was attacked by another student. We don't know. I know there's an investigation. And that's Austin Borden right now, and horrific head injury. And it's just, again, every parent's nightmare. Let's talk about, and hope that young man, has a speedy recovery. And it's just awful. It's just awful to look at. And let's look at the possibilities. Now, school liability, that's a government entity, and they have government immunity to a certain extent for usually negligent conduct and things like that. There may be, if it's wanton or willful conduct, they could be liable to school, could be liable for these injuries. Let's assume that another student attacked this young man, Mr. Borden. Well, obviously, it's a criminal assault and battery. There is a civil assault, battery, intentional infliction of emotional stress claims to be made. Kids, there's no insurance to cover that. Kids this age don't have money to pay medical bills, this, that, and the other. Let's assume Mr. Borden doesn't have health insurance and all these medical bills. So if he makes a claim civilly, he could, against whoever the offender is, the offender would be liable for those medical bills. But again, it may not be something that could be paid by another fellow student, if you will. If there's a criminal conviction under the Victims' Compensation Fund, there is a mechanism to help victims of criminal conduct, pay for medical bills and things like that. Let's just stretch it on. Is the school liable if there's a criminal assault on their premises? Well, criminal acts of third parties is typically, you're not going to be liable unless you knew or should have known. For example, two students get in a fight, one is injured, faculty didn't know there was any problems, this, that, and the other, they're not liable, right? The school's not liable. If there was an issue ongoing and there was further complaints and they did nothing about it, there's a potential liability, but again, it has to be foreseeable damage or foreseeable incident from the school's standpoint. And that's a pretty significant bar. And where we use it is you go into a convenience store and there's a robbery going on and you're injured, okay, from that robbery. Was the store robbed on Monday? Was it robbed on Wednesday? Did the store do anything to provide security to protect that particular premises? They could be liable if they did not. We hope this young man has a speedy recovery, there's a criminal investigation. It may be a civil situation as well. And it's just, again, just a hard, everybody with kids, that's, you send them to school and you don't expect something like this to happen. It's just awful.
So, and asking and maybe clarifying, but obviously when parents send their kids off to school, they assume that even if it was a criminal act, they assume that there are school workers or teachers or administrators, enough of them about that if something like that breaks out and a student is being injured, they will be able to break that up or to respond to that quickly. Is there any accountability from that perspective toward the schools?
Let's just say policy procedure required a school resource officer, or two, or three, depending on how large the school is, and what areas are he or she supposed to be in at that particular time. Again, if there's a couple of officers there, and they can't be everywhere, right? And so if the policy procedures call for video, I think there was an allegation it was happened at the front of the school, and there are no cameras. That's disappointing, and could there be liability for lack of cameras? That wouldn't have precluded it, but it may help any civil or criminal case, prove the facts of the case and determine whether or not there was, any violation of policy procedures on the adults there, okay? That's assuming it's an attack. Let's say he fell down the stairs if it was a dangerous condition. Again, government immunity would probably apply unless there is willful or wanton conduct. And so it's tough. It's tough.
I'll say this, obviously so far we have heard from the young man's parents, who are obviously upset, and they are concerned that they say they're not getting the answers they need. I do want to push ahead and say that we have a WAAY 31 reporter, Julia Miller, who was actually there headed to that area today, to Scumbia, working on this story and trying to get some of these answers for folks. But from a legal perspective, it's very interesting to learn, unless it's a criminal case and someone is held criminally liable, there may not be a whole lot of other options here.
There might not be. And so the typical case I look at is, let's say there is a gunshot.
Right.
Let's say I'm attempting to shoot someone else and I accidentally shoot you. My insurance may cover me for that because it was unintended conduct to injure you. But if it's a criminal attack, it's going to be tough. It's going to be tough.
Our prayers certainly with that young man and his family.
Borden, Austin Borden, good luck to you, son.
Talk about your blog real quickly.
Oh, yes. You know, if you got any questions, law-injury.com. You know, give us a buzz, shoot us a text, shoot us an email, whatever question you got. You know, we handle a lot of car wrecks, medical malpractice, workers' comp, breach of contract, you know, a lot of insurance litigation. And, you know, I tell folks, I hope you don't need us, but if you do, we'll do our best to help you.
Absolutely. Will League, thank you for joining us. And, of course, we'll be right back.